Welcome everybody. Again, my name is Jacques Wright.
It's Adrian Peace.
And this is
the Nice Guys Podcast.
So glad to have everybody tuned back in with us. It's another week, another blessing, another lesson. And today we're going to talk about leadership. Yeah, and what that means. You know, I think there's a lot of dynamics to leadership.
For sure.
What people see it as, you know, some people see leadership as tyranny. Some people see leadership as, you know, being a philanthropist, or leadership in terms of like even with the civil rights, when you just see different forms of leadership.
Indeed.
And the impact, even with peaceful people, peaceful
relationships.
Relationships. You know, work wise, in your work dynamic, you have a certain line of leadership and expectation behind it.
Absolutely.
And I think that leadership definitely is a very important thing. And it all plays its own part. The reason why I bring it up is because I just see leadership differently, and everybody attracts to different leaders in their own, for their own reasons, their own personal reasons. Before off camera, I was talking about Malcolm X. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that's kind of a touchy guy, but I like his dynamic. I like his story. I like the fact that, you know, the roads that grew out of concrete story. I like those underdogs that went through a lot of traumatic experiences, and because of that, even if they didn't even know they were dealing with it, they still dealt with it, and they still overcame all those obstacles.
Right.
Yeah, they might have met an untimely demise just based off situations, but they stuck to their truth. So I think with Malcolm X, the reason why I connect the story personally is just that, you know, I've seen traumatic situations and different things in my childhood, you know what I'm saying, that I thought was just normalized and just nomenclature, but it's really not, you know what I'm saying, compared to other people's story. Now, I can't compare mine in the sense where, you know what I'm saying, I'm trying to knock anybody else's, but I was like, man, I gravitate to this dude and his intellect. You know what I'm saying? And I think there's a lot of similarities I see. Like, I went to predominantly white school. I was like mainly the only black kid in the class, and there was certain, you know, I wouldn't say prejudice, but I dealt with certain things. I've been called out of my name and N-word before, just different. I didn't know what it meant. I went back to my mother, talked to her about it, and she was like, oh, no, we're going to handle this right now. You know what I'm saying? So just seeing his backstory and the situation, I don't think I had anybody deal with things, you know, father getting murdered, none like crazy stuff like that, or mom being institutionalized, but seeing some crazy things. I think we all have our own reasons for why we connect, you know what I mean? And Malcolm X's story just, it resonates.
Yeah,
sure.
Absolutely. It was in Detroit Red.
Yeah, Detroit Red, you know what I'm saying?
Going from, he was a hustler, he was a, you know, he was a user at a time too.
Oh, he was a drug addict. Yeah.
And to go from that to the person that we know today, I mean, that's phenomenal in the picture of what leadership is, I think. And, you know, we can think of all kind of leaders throughout history that they had this they had this phenomenal side to them, and then it's like there's always that, you know, that other side of the coin to it.
Yeah.
But it's always interesting to just look at how that played out throughout history, and how that person kind of dealt with that, and how history reacts to those type of situations.
During those times, too.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that for me, I just liked his boisterousness, because at the time he was so radical during the time period. It's like, I can't believe, number one, he was making super intelligent dude, but he was simplistic in terms of his approach, his vernacular, how he communicated to the community, so that he didn't throw people off and like make them disinterested. He was so profound and prolific in what he did. It was just like, we have to get rid of this. And now FBI created files and all types of stuff and investigations on him. But it's like he knew how to connect. You know? And I think that's important as a leader, to be able to connect with people, especially during those trying times. And I think that for him to be so bold and confident in what he was saying, and not to back off anything he felt was a truth, I think that's what allowed him to kind of like pierce through. He's still kind of like immortalized in a sense. Like, you're not going to forget him as being a staple in history.
For sure.
You know,
and back then too, like, I mean, there's always consequences for your words and stuff like that, for your actions. But back then, it's like, especially in that position, that's a different type of weight behind everything that you say and do. To know that you're facing those kind of consequences and still poke out your chest and say what's on your mind like that. That's inspiring for sure.
Yes, I mean, if people want to talk about gangster, talk about being a thug or whatever, you know, shout out to, you know, obviously Tupac. I just feel like that's the most gangsterous thing when you know that not only is your opposition against you, but then the people that you actually assimilated to started to become against you. You still spoke up and wanted to create your own, initiative and conglomerate for your own situation going forward. And untimely demise, of course, but I feel like he stuck to it and he knew what was going to be the outcome, but he still stuck to it. And not to Martin Luther King, I feel like he definitely held his own in his own peaceful way because the Montgomery boycott was one of the biggest boisterous. I mean, if you hit somebody financially and you stop what's going on economically, and this is going to lead back to some other things, but of course, if you hit their pockets, it affects people's livelihood. They can't take care of their kids and their responsibilities.
Indeed.
But yet you want to still, what they want to call it, extort, and demonize certain groups of individuals that are contributing such a huge financial piece or fiscal piece every year to the gross domestic product. And like how that kind of ties back for me personally, it's just like just seeing that our communities contribute so much, but we only get so much back or give so much back to ourselves. It's like it's tripping. I think that those individuals as leaders, they're definitely trying to set the pace and try to get things to be well understood. Because even with Sam Cooke, he played his part monumentally. Like he wanted to create a distribution company, you know what I'm saying, and give money back to the artists because they were being enslaved and treated a certain way and they were like being undermined. But then the Italian mob did their thing, So it's like he stuck to it and they kept threatening him. He could have easily subsided, but as a leader and being so passionate, because he was, they had a movie about him and Muhammad Lee and Malcolm X, Muhammad Ali, and Sam Cooke were all like really close affiliates. So like those individuals stood out as pinnacles and as leaders back in the time where things were super turbulent, super uncomfortable and uneasy because of, certain racial boundaries and things like that nature they were trying to breach.
Y'all like to talk about your ops and stuff like, man, their ops was literally the United States government.
Literally the people that are trying to keep everything in order are against you. So, and then it just leads to other parts in history when it leads to the Black Panther movie because of those two slayings. You had Martin Luther King and Malcolm X being murdered. These are two top tier, individuals within the community that played their part. And they did it so eloquently in the media's eye, that, and it's like two different sides. Even like Marvel Comics exemplified it with X-Men because X-Men are considered to be, African American. That's what Stan Lee wanted to actually, put out there and project that the X-Men were African Americans and Dr. Xavier was supposed to be Martin Luther King and Magneto was supposed to be Malcolm X. And he played it out very well. And I was like, wow, I knew it was something about that, but I didn't know to what extent.
Yeah.
And it just seemed those two different sides and that dichotomy. I was just like, wow.
I think that's interesting too, because like, I feel like Black people always kind of migrated toward the X-Men without really knowing why, without really knowing all of that. So that's real interesting.
Yeah, Stan Lee, I think he did a good job in terms of capturing that now. In terms of the Black Panther movie, I still have my parts and feelings about Killmonger. I like Killmonger. I like Killmonger a lot.
Yeah.
That's all. I'm gonna leave it at that. So I was really upset at how they was portrayed. Like the Black Panther they were looked at as like just thugs. They were just trying to do irrational things. But I mean, if you're being, victimized, whatever you want to call it, or being bothered by the authority to keep things in wraps, like, you see like the overseer and stuff like that, like slave plantation, it was the same thing within our communities. You have, the police playing their part, trying to keep things on the wraps. And I mean, when you have situations that are, demeaning to others, you're going to have opposition, no matter however you want to see it.
For sure.
People are fed up with certain situations, but then you see other parts of it. You see like Contra and all that stuff, and the United States government going over to Nicaragua, and I always say Nicaragua, I messed the word up, down in South America, and they took all these cocaine and moved it through our communities, and they turned it to crack. You just see different things that are put into place and systemically, but you have these leaders that try to work in opposition, but unfortunately still met a certain type of demise. Like Huey P. Newton got assassinated out of nowhere, and other cats became either political prisoners or became politicians.
Yeah.
With the Rainbow Coalition, nothing against them, but you see the transference of energy and just how things have developed, and it's just like, I think with leaders that stand out and push for something better, it's always going to be something that they're going to try to demonize and try to change and flip. Like, I always look at like Freddie Hampton, man. It's just, like, he was doing the Breakfast Club for all the kids and stuff like that, the educational system. Shout out to Freddie Hampton, the west side of Chicago, you know what I'm saying, from Illinois. Most of my family from the west side and the south side as well. Take a lot of south siders. But just seeing the situation, they said he was basically stealing ice cream sandwiches from the ice cream truck. Like, just finding little petty things and do things to infiltrate what was going on to create a narrative that it wasn't there. You know what I'm saying? So, like, as a leader, you have to be prepared for all types of things, because when you're in that position, you know, very easily things can turn tide, you know? So I think that as a leader, you have to be able to know that it's going to happen. You know, it's
for sure.
It's all about how you're going to react to it. And even Nip talked about that. Like, every person is kind of judged based on how they react to situations. And like, even for me, I look at what Malcolm was saying. You can't be too emotional, because that get you killed too, or get you in a bad position. So I'm still learning. Like, I feel like I definitely want to be in a more of a leadership role, and I'm still learning how to deal with things in a certain way, because I'm doing things a lot differently than I would see like maybe my uncles do, or even my family. And nothing against them, but you know, I definitely try to go against the grain with certain things. Sometimes I do play devil's advocate. You synced in the part. I'll be saying stuff to kind of like spark people up a little bit, but it's always something behind it that I'm just trying to kind of get at. So it's very interesting. But I think even like you said, as a leader or somebody that's trying to be a leader, you got to be very mindful of what you say. So I've recently had a very humbling experience that definitely made me think about things a little bit different. I'm a little bit more toned down, y'all. So hey, y'all notice energy shift. I've been doing a lot of stuff behind off camera, so I'm just like, wow. All right, so
but see, you know, as a leader, so leadership on, you know, not just necessarily individual basis, but a structural kind of basis, you know, whereas the leaders, the they, you know, powers to be, those people recognize the value in leadership, I think, a lot quicker than some of us do, or have a deeper understanding of it than some of us do. And I think that, you know, that's why we've had the Fred Hamptons, the Tupacs, the Nipsey Hussles, the, you know,
they like natural born leaders, though.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like all of those situations that we just spoke about, where Black people start attaining some power and getting organized and stuff like that, and the powers that be step in and you know, do what they did. You know, it just shows that, like, that's how crucial leadership is. Yeah. And it's just like, do we really understand how critical it is? But it's like, there's so much of pride and ignorance and all of these other things. I ain't finna let no nigga tell me what to do. I ain't finna, you know what I'm saying? Like,
I mean, can we get into it? Like, get into it. I think it's very intentional that it's been like put in that place, because I'm just gonna say it again. I've said it so many times. The Black family infrastructure is so important. The nucleus behind it is so important. Yeah, historically, it's been important. You know, if you can disenfranchise that, you're doing a lot. You know what I'm saying? You see it within our communities. It should never be tit for tat or any issues between man and woman. You know what I'm saying? It should be a cohesion. That's how you create life. You know what I'm saying? It should never be a separation between the child and you know, the grandparent or the elderly. You're supposed to have respect in all those forms. You know what I'm saying? And you know, I think as men, we are natural born leaders. There's nothing against female leaders either, but like naturally, we are looked up to in order to actually make things happen and take things and be breadwinners. You know what I'm saying? So if you can create that disenfranchisement within the nucleus, then you know that your job is done. You know, I mean, you've seen that historically from slavery up to now. Like, you had it set up where you put the woman in front. You know, the Willis theory is the same concept. You effeminate, you emasculate the man, make him effeminate, so that he falls back, because now you've destroyed that whole dynamic within the household. Now, when the household is destroyed, the kid goes out into the world and becomes destructive.
Yeah.
You know, you always see
That's a great point. It makes me think about how listening is a skill. It's something that you have to build up, like anything else. It's something you have to learn how to do better. You know, as you age, as you acquire wisdom and stuff like that, you do so through listening, but you have to get better at listening as you go on.
Yeah.
So listening is a skill, and it's a skill that, you know, if you don't nurture from a young age, so a lot of people just never get it. So like you said, like they're taking the fathers out of the home. So those kids, they never grew up honing that skill to listen. Yeah. So then now they go out in the world, they crash dummies, they doing whatever.
Because they don't have that guidance, they don't have that grounding. I noticed a difference. I noticed a difference. Like even with myself and just seeing other comparisons, like with people that have father figures or both, like some type of motherly figure and a father figure within a household, you see them a lot more grounded, more consistent, more organized. They're not just doing irrational things or just doing random stuff.
For sure.
They're a lot more intentional in terms of their grounds and their goals that are being set. And they have more of a grounding in terms of what they need to do and how they need to get things accomplished, not confused, you know, because they've had that grounding since, you know, being in the household. Whereas other people that have grown up with, you know, not knocking people that grew up in a single parent household or a single mother household, is you see a difference, you know, even with the penal system, you see like in penitentiaries, you have, you know, obviously it's intentional that you see more African-American males overpopulated within the prison, you know, prison system complex, whatever the situation is, because you see that they come from broken homes. Yeah. So it definitely plays a part. You know, I think that that's also intentional, systemic, but at the same time, it's about knowing that and also not allowing that to continue on as a continuation for yours. You know, like when I have a kid or I want to, you know, I'm allowed to have a child, I would like to have a son, I like to show him something different. Yeah, absolutely. You know what I'm saying? And, you know, life has humbled me in a lot of different ways. But, you know, I definitely feel like at the same time, I want to take some of my lessons, at least, you know, water that plant and feed into that kid things that are, you know, leadership value, you know, within the house. So and be that backbone, because I mean, I work in the industry, I work in healthcare. I do notice that men do die a little quicker. Yeah. Probably because of stress and stuff. But I mean, we do have a huge responsibility that, you know, everybody looks upon you for that. You know? For sure. But you also need to have a really good ecosystem in your career. Like you can't have a woman that's making it way too difficult for you. Yeah. Rest in peace, my cousin Malcolm. His girl, I think she made it hard for him. You know what I'm saying? So, man, I don't know how it always plays out, but I do feel like it does stem from each person. Each individual's individual in their households plays a part in how they're going to come together with somebody else. Yeah. So that's another thing to look into as well and understand. But again, like leadership is just very profound. It's always needed. So yeah, always needed.
It's like a each one teach one type of thing too.
Yeah. Know?
It's like we gotta not only be able to take leadership from somebody, you know, but the leader should. So you know, the leader should be willing to follow at times. The leader should be empowering others to be leaders, even if that means them stepping down from there at some time, which is taking me somewhere completely different. But that's one of the biggest problems we have with our government is we have all these leaders that don't want to sit down. They just want to stay in Congress and whatever till they're 80 years old, make decisions for
milk it all. Yeah, it's just like, okay. Yeah, things are changing rapidly. So your ideology compared to what's really going on in the current times is probably two not equating. Right? Yeah, don't compete. You might still be stuck in thinking that somebody's underneath you or somebody's supposed to be beneath you because of how they look, which is the most asinine thing ever. Because I feel like if you're equating somebody's importance based on how they physically look, like they carry themselves very well, they're clean, but yet they look different based off the pigment of skin or whatever the situation is. It's just pure ignorance. It's just like, what are you doing? So that definitely can play a major part in a lot of different things. So I definitely agree with that one for sure.
I mean, our president is in octogenarian or whatever.
That boy can't even stand on his 2 feet at the time.
It's like, you think about like what you would want as a leader, especially if we were, you know, in wartime or something like that. We don't have no movies where the hero of our nation or whatever, the hero, the leader, is an 80-year-old nigga. Where is that movie?
I honestly don't think we even expected to live that long, to be real with you. I don't think we expected
like the tip top of our
I think if you live to be 80
expectancy, dog.
Yeah, I think if you live to be 80, you're blessed. Because most people die about 80, 83.
Right.
You don't really see past that, you know what I'm saying? So that's the reality behind it.
It's wild.
It's a lot of different things that play a part. And you see it when you look back at it like, wow, this is...
Yeah.
It's all like put into place like, man, this is so obvious, but it's just like, wow, I can't believe this is in my face like this, but it's there. It's right there. So it's like, okay, we talk about it, but it's like finding the solution. Like I always have this thing when I walk around sometimes, like we know what the issues are. How are we like getting to the solutions? You know, like I think leaders provide solutions, or at least listen to what they should be.
Yeah, absolutely.
Take heed to them, because leaders don't always have all the answers, but they should be able to consort and delegate and work with people that can actually contribute and bring things to the table to help find a solution to different issues. And it's all about whether or not you want to address them and deal with the elephant in the room too. So that plays a part as well. And then also being able to not get stuck within your own ego and thinking that you can't listen to other people. Because
absolutely.
That can happen in terms of leadership as well. Oh, I've been doing this. I'm successful. I got a successful. I don't need to listen to. I got a successful track record. But at the end of the day, you got to be able to listen to somebody else as well too. You got to have some ground. You got to be able to be open to different concepts and perceptions of things too, because we all play a part in what's going on too.
Right.
So I do see a trend amongst Black leaders though. Like all the cats that we mentioned, they died by gunshot wound or something in relation to.
Yeah.
And I was talking to a therapist about this the one time. She was like, you might want to look at some other leaders and look at maybe some people from other ethnicity. I was like, whoa, that's how on her. I ain't gonna lie, because I was just like, I can't believe you just said that.
Yeah.
But I was shocked. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, I'm not saying I knock anybody else's leadership because of how they look, but are they gonna be able to connect and understand me?
For sure.
Are they coming from the same place, maybe same struggle, same family dynamics, same family issues, whatever situation? A lot of times it's not always the case, but you can still look up to other people for leadership as well. I'm not going to never knock Mohandas Gandhi or JFK, anybody else that's been in leadership roles. Well, who's going to hit
might
ground?
not be able to relate.
Yeah, who's going to hit ground is going to probably be that person that looks a lot more like it comes from the certain areas that most of my people come from, or where I come from, because they understand what that is. So that's another part of it as well too. And like when you do look up to leaders and like try to like build your understanding of leadership, is like who do you choose for the, to look up to as well too. And then just seeing those outcomes is like, well, how do you do different? You know what I'm saying? Like, not saying that you can control everything, but you play a part. Yeah. In terms of your outcome, in terms of your leadership. Like if I decide to do things that's irrational, it could lead to a lot of destruction and stuff like that, because you have a certain position and like people are listening to their influence. You look at certain influencers that say certain things that can really spark up some real negative things within history. And you got to be very careful with that. Like you look at some of the social media influencers like Andrew Tate or even Kevin Samuel, like different cats like that. In some ways, part of you, because of your hurt or pain, you might be able to understand and assimilate. But at the time, when you think of it holistically, and you think about some of the impact that it could possibly have and how influential it is, you got to be very careful of some of the things that you hear and take what they're saying and doing, because it can have a really bad impact, negative impact, lasting impact on things. I mean, people that listen to Adolf Hitler, they would listen to him. It was Adam, he had a microphone, and he made a huge impact on things. I've said this on the pod before, but like one of the only things that I really learned in college was from my English professor. She said language is alive. And like that it blew my mind and really stuck with me to this day. It's just like we might start some, just one saying that
it shifts culture forever. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So it's like, yeah, there's a big responsibility. It's like we have freedom of speech, quote unquote, right? But yeah, there's that comes with responsibility, and there's consequences for everything. There's just every action, equal opposite reaction.
It does, and I'm seeing it more and more prevalent as we speak. I've seen a lot of stuff within the last couple of weeks. I'm just like, what in the world? And not thinking about it because of the foresight. I'm just thinking in a different lens, and like, it's like what? It's like a whirlwind of just different stuff going on.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, let me just stay focused on this path and not let any other entities or involve any other entities, and just focus on this and like learn from that lesson and just keep going forward. Because as a leader, you definitely have to take heed to some of the shortcomings or the L's you take as well too.
Absolutely.
Be real about them and understand what you did wrong, and just grow from it. You know what I'm saying? I think that's the growth that's a huge word right there. Just taking in everything and really taking into consideration what you're doing, because every step, like when we play chess, every step plays a part in the board,
for sure,
has a lasting consequence. You play a really good pawn game, and sometimes I'm like, oh, okay, I see what's going on, but at first I'm just initially looking at, okay, I'm gonna go take this piece and take that piece, but then it's like you gotta think another 10 steps ahead of that.
Right.
It's gonna lead to eventual checkmate, because you're not gonna have the piece that you need, or they're gonna be able to change that dynamic completely around.
Yeah.
Shift it all completely. So
exactly.
Foresight is a huge thing in leadership, and willing to accept the consequence and be mindful of what that is too ahead of time.
Yeah.
Because you might say, well, I'm okay with this and I can accept that. And it's like, is that from an emotional standpoint or from a more logical standpoint?
Right.
So
we might be able to get into that a little bit more in a minute. We're gonna take a quick break, y'all.
Yeah, for sure.
This is a segment where you know what I'm saying, you have anything you want to advertise, anything you do, your artistry, creativities, your business, whatever it is, you know what I'm saying? Reach out to us, hit us up, DM, email, everything is in the show notes, the description. Hit us up, man. We'll take a quick break. We'll be right back. Welcome back, man.
What's going on?
So we talking about leadership.
Yeah.
It's important.
Yeah, man. Mad important. I think with leadership, it's, you never should stray away from it. I know when I was young, I used to be more like, I don't know about this leadership thing. I don't know about, because I've had leadership roles even on campus. I used to be a residential advisor.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. I've been a manager before. So you definitely have a different, take on things, and you have to, I don't want to say babysit, but you have to deal with people a lot more.
For sure.
And it definitely makes you look at yourself and how you deal with every situation. Because it's different. There's literally different types of leaders. There's leaders that are like a little more standoffish, but they allow you to do things, but they'll step in and take direction when need, or take direct action when need be.
Yeah.
There's people that's a lot more hands-on, more micromanaged. So I think that dynamic is pretty important to understand as well, too, like what your leadership is.
Yeah, absolutely.
Even though you look up to other leaders, saying how they work, you might like certain things, but then there's other facets about it that you don't always cope with. You deal with things differently on your accord as well. So that's very important to look at as well, too, in terms of being a leader. Have I had always the best experience with those things? No. I'm being completely transparent. I've had different experiences, but I think I learned from them, and I'm still learning. But at some point, you have to know when to be a lot more matured about it and really not repeat the same things. So
yeah, and it could be tough. It could be very tough. I've been in a leadership position for a while, and I've learned a lot, made a lot of mistakes, and
it's gonna happen.
I did a lot of things right because I learned from other leaders, had mentors and stuff like that, to kind of not even personally mentor me, but I considered them my mentors just because I treated it like that when I was watching videos and reading books and read my readings, and so I was able to kind of learn from other people's mistakes and try my best not to repeat those. But sometimes, your personality gets in the way, and and you still fall into some of those same pitfalls. I had to, like you said, figure out and still figuring out the kind of leader that I am. Like you, I've pretty much always shied away from being a leader. I've never wanted to be in that position, mostly because I'm, kind of a shy person, especially in my past. Was very shy to the point that, I, get nervous having to talk to one person. So I've always been placed in leadership roles, but not by choice. And even with Rebellious Society was kind of that same situation. And throughout that, it was dealing with, so many different personalities, especially artists. It was difficult at times to manage that, especially, we as artists are some of the most neurotic human beings on earth. So it's a lot of passion. To have that much passion in one place can be difficult. That many creative minds opens up for a lot of creative differences at times. So to manage that, to still give people the freedom to make their,
my bad, dog. I played my passion part. I ain't doing this. I'm tired of this. Yeah. But it wasn't even rebellious. It was more some other stuff I was going on. Like, it wasn't even 100% sure. I was just like, bro, it's just too much going on with that toxic relationship I was in. I was like, bro, I can't fathom this no more, bro. Like, I need to be myself. I got real reclusive. It was times people had to check in on me, like, you all right, bro? Like, nah. Right. I'm not okay, but I appreciate you, you know what I'm saying? So, but I'm pretty sure in that group you saw some leadership in everybody,
For sure.
Probably even me in certain ways, maybe. I don't know. I just I play my own little role or whatever. So yeah, I mean, it's funny you mentioned it because like you don't always see it ahead of time. I've always wanted leadership roles. I'm not gonna act like I didn't. I just wanted it where it was easy for me. Like, and then you realize leadership is not easy at all. You're going to deal with a lot of moving parts, a lot of people, a lot of personalities, and it's going to be ins and outs. And I commend you for dealing with artists because we are very different type of individuals.
Yes.
I mean, what makes sense to us may not make sense to other people.
Yeah.
Sometimes we're still coming to ourselves and we don't even realize it. So you're dealing with that part of it as well. You're dealing with somebody that doesn't 100% understand what they want to do, but they're just doing it.
Indeed. And I think it's important to know kind of the things that our leaders are dealing with, to like keep that in mind. Because a lot of times we don't think about it. We might just be like, and I'm not just giving myself like a out here, but like a lot of times we just don't think about like, oh, so-and-so might be, they going through stuff too. You know what I'm saying? Like, because it's real easy to like criticize your boss or your manager, your whatever it is, without realizing that they're dealing with a lot. That never gives a person an excuse to be a person or anything like that.
Never.
I definitely got past bosses I still want to slap. I'm upset that I didn't get the opportunity. But
you get assault charges, man.
You know what I'm saying?
But that master seafood, you can hit him with the master seafood, with the bing, 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 bing. Yeah, you know what I'm saying?
It would be days where, people don't realize, like, all right, I just got off the phone with this person, talking to them about their problems, and then so and so called me with a problem with that person, and then so and so called me after that and like, yo, can you do this for me? And I'm like, yeah, I got you. I'm gonna do that. And then I still got 10 other things for myself to do. And then this, that, and the other. So, not even just talking about myself, but just being a leader, you deal with a lot. I think it's important to be, sort of empathetic toward leaders. And not be afraid to put yourself. That's one of the things that, one of the biggest leadership qualities and just qualities in general that I appreciate about everybody who was a part of our team was that everybody was willing to put themselves in the position of a servant. I think that's like the most important thing for a leader to be able to do. is to be a servant.
Yeah. I mean, that's, if you read the book by Napoleon Hill, I Wouldn't the Devil, I always mention it, but it talks about that in that book about being in the line of servitude, because it just reflects on you as a person as well, to not be always taking, but be able to give as well.
Yeah.
You know, that's a very quintessential thing, because it reflects on you as a person. And and that role essentially is not about you.
Yeah, absolutely.
When it becomes about you, that's dictatorship, that's tyrannical. Mm-hmm. Whereas if you're like giving back, then at that point it's, you know, they call it, it's not oligarchy. It's not, no. What's, I can't think of the term right now, so they'll come back to it.
Democratic.
I'm gonna use that one. Democratic. Okay. You know, it's more of that approach than tyrannical or dictatorship for sure. Situation is. So, yeah, I think touch on a lot of different subjects, and I think it's just interesting when you think about leadership. All these different layers that come about from it. So, and it's very important to understand. I think that's why a lot of times people fret from it, because so much that comes with the role. But I think now it's like it's better to run to it. Like now I'm at a point where I'm running to it like crazy. Like but I'm trying not to run to it too head forward first. Yeah, I look at Luffy, because again with my recent experience, I was just like, what just happened? I don't even understand. Yeah, to this day I'm still perplexed. You know, like gotta let that go. But it be in my mind like, what the world? And then I see what I did and some of the reactions to it. You know. And when you deal with things from an emotional standpoint, because you're emotional, because of other things going on in your life, that can play a huge part in how people perceive you, and they're not going to respect or take heed to your leadership. Right. At that point, now they're looking at, I can't look up to that person. Like as men, whether we acknowledge it or not, you know, those of the opposite sex look up to how we react and deal with things all day long. Yes. Period. And you have to, even if you're feeling certain ways, you can't even show it. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, they will lose respect for you. Yeah, entirely. So
that's one of the. I'm very, very thankful that I've never with anybody that I've been in a relationship with. I've never experienced that, but I definitely experienced it a lot just as a leader in general, where I felt like I couldn't show not one sign of weakness.
Stoicism.
Yeah. I mean,
I feel like people respect stoicism more than they really respect somebody being emotional. Mm-hmm.
It definitely seems that way. There's your rare individuals that are the opposite, but it is rare to find. It really just seems that way, especially like you said with dealing with the opposite sex, like dealing with women, on a relationship tip. Like, yeah, it's viewed as weakness, but they want you to be vulnerable, quote unquote.
It's the weirdest space that we're being, brother.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any, honestly, it makes,
it's like you can't be emotionally sense. Unavailable.
You can't win for losing. You can't lose for winning. I don't know how to put it.
Yeah.
So it's like, you want me to be vulnerable, but you don't want me to show my emotions.
Uh-huh. And it's like the ones that...
What person can do this?
The relationships that I've been in, where I have felt...
What person can do this? I'm sorry, I'm listening to you.
Who?
Who was able to do the? Please show
Who among us?
Show me your ways.
But
show me how
the relationships that I've been in, where I have felt like I could be really expressive and vulnerable and even weak at times with that person and not face any backlash. I've also found those people too emotional. So it's like
I'm at a place I'm not doing it no more. Yeah. I'm going back to my stoic self. It worked way. The funny thing is, as much as I've had more success in relationships when I was more butthole than I have been when I've been emotionally available. Yeah. Like, it was like I had a perfect balance. I could be very nice and I could be very mean. Mm-hmm. And when I had that balance, it worked for me very well. Yeah. And when I got too tilted off balance, that's when it went downhill. Mm. But when I was like, okay, we cool, we good, I'm not dealing with that. When I had that balance, like, we cool, we good, and then I was like, right. You know what I'm saying? It was like they took more, it was more respected. Mm-hmm. Then I was like, come on, can we just, can we just, like, you know, that type of stuff, that don't work. Yeah. It don't work. And then I'm light skinned too. It don't work, baby. Creamy beige, it don't work, B. This right here, it don't work. It's already a stigma.
Found your leadership style, I guess.
I've come to a conclusion, and I know what's gonna work for me. You know, I'm gonna deal with things in my own right, you know what I'm saying? But at the same time, I can't go back to that. It's a setup. I'm not going to be a mean or a bad person. It's just you got to have a balance, dog. And I think that's just with anything. So
balance.
And I keep learning that in other situations. And then some people that just you want or you feel like you can be comfortable in that safe space and you come to realize it's something totally separate. You're like, oh.
Yeah.
Wow. Leadership, man.
Leadership
is it's a lot of moving parts, a lot of dynamic, a lot of layers.
It's the most dynamic.
And you would think people want to run from it all the time. And some people that, you know, but I feel like it's like you come to a point in your life, I'm 35, I'm like, bro, I want to just step into it. You know, go straight into it in whatever ways I need to. Not that I've been running away from anything like that. I just want to kind of take it a lot more seriously. You know, I got 5 years from 40. I want to have a lot more established. I want to be retired by 45, entirely financially, just be free.
Yeah. And
it's going to take me to deal with things in a whole different way that I never even saw growing up. I never seen a male figure doing certain things in the house. So I'm not making an excuse. I'm just saying, you know, what my experience has been. So I'm learning all these things up to this point for a reason. And now I'm going to take heed to it, take it very seriously. Step into full maturation and just, you know, understand exactly what my role is.
Absolutely.
So,
and man, I'm about something just popped in my head that I think is very important to say is a lot of people. Okay, so leadership, some of the key ingredients, right, can oftentimes be money, power, influence, the ability to demand respect, the you know, charisma, all of those things. But any person with all of those things can still not be a leader.
Interesting.
You know what I'm saying?
I never thought about it.
Because they could even be a person in a leadership role, right? They could be a quote unquote boss, this word that we're all so obsessed with.
I'm a boss.
Yeah.
I get that you're a boss, but what kind of boss are you?
Yeah, but are you a leader? Are you a person that, like we said, can be a servant? Are you a person that is able to remove their own ego from a situation, or say choose at the right times to have that ego?
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying. Aristotle has a quote like, anybody could be angry, but be angry at the right time, in the right way, to the right degree. Like, you know, that is difficult. It's the same thing with being a leader. So I think that's very important.
Like, how far do you go with your bossiness until you actually become just like not a leader, but just like a tyrant or a dictator, because you're appearing to be something that you're really not, because you haven't really fully understood or developed that leadership understanding or role to the point where you can be successful for everybody around you. Right. So like the people around you, I definitely feel like they reflect on your leadership and like how their successes go and like what's going on. Like even with our situation, man, like we deal with things on the back end, but we still find ways to communicate and deal with things in a certain way. That's not always the easiest for people, but I think that's a part of leadership as well, is just being able to look at things, communicate properly, kind of like execute things and like come with solutions. Leaders are always expected to come with solutions, man.
Right.
So, and not just telling somebody what to do, but just really having people understand why you're explaining to them to do things in a certain directive. You know what I'm saying? That's very important as well, too. Keep in mind, don't just tell somebody, explain to them why they have to do this.
Yeah.
It's better than just to talk at a person, but to talk to them and explain things. It's like, that's another huge piece as well, because people be more receptive.
Right. And actually be inspired to do it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. So.
Indeed. Well, I think we did it.
I think we did another one. Absolutely. So again, hopefully this touches somebody. We definitely hit some key points, some key notes there as well, some good takeaways as well too. I feel like if you have any comments or things you want to suggest as well in terms of your role, please, type, hopefully y'all subscribed already, y'all liking, y'all commenting what's going on. Again, we want to connect with y'all, and we want to definitely know exactly where y'all at, how y'all feel about things. It's not just about us. We're making this about everybody. It's, again, a personal development. So we just talking about our experiences and hopefully can relate to y'all and hopefully impact you in a way that you can go out there and do something, positive with what we're doing. You know what I'm saying? So
for sure.
It's a deeper meaning. So hopefully y'all take heed to that, of course. We appreciate y'all. It's all love. Again, my name is Jocko Wright.
Say dream peace.
And this is the Nice Guys Podcast. Y'all be safe, stay blessed, and one love.
Peace.